Hey, and we are live. I am Chris Robin, aka at Detroit Beastie, here with Fantasy Six Pack with my dog Keith Fleming. To the left of me, to the right of me, no matter which way you're seeing this, we got together, right? Keith and I got together, and we said, you know what? Monday Night Football is always a big spot, not only for me but for the website. Normally, I do the single game slate videos, right? And I go through it. I have my brain trust that I say, you know what? I want to do this. I want to stack this guy. But with two games in the mix, I could have easily handled it. But Keith reached out to me, what was it? Maybe a week ago or so, and said, hey, I want to kind of hop on your regular video. And the more I thought about it, I said, you know what? It's going to be a lot of work for me, one guy, to record two videos, to make graphics, to edit everything with the projections. And I said, why don't we just get together Monday evening or afternoon sometime and just broadcast and just say what's on our mind. And again, this is going to be for all of you who watch my single game slate videos. I still have my notes and I still have my projections and I still have, I'm going to give final scores. I'm going to give recent betting trends. You're going to get all that stuff, but we're going to wrap it up into like a 30 to 45 minute thing. And it's just, it's going to save me at least a ton of time where I can be in bed by 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, around kickoff. And we are rolling. So Keith, thanks so much for being here. What are your first thoughts on the slate here today? Because there's two games. It's a doubleheader of fun. The Christmas season is coming along. I know my Lions play. They're hosting the Denver Broncos on Saturday, so we've kind of entered that weirdness where, like, kind of, I don't want to say anything goes, but we're gonna start to get more fun. Where it's like a doubleheader on Monday night. We're gonna get a Saturday night game in Detroit. So things are gonna start to we're gonna have to be on our toes if we're gonna make a couple bucks here. For DFS. So, Keith, what's your first reaction when you looked at this two-game slate? And one more, a question within a question. Are you playing this thing because you can play, both games, in one lineup, or you can play two single-game slates? What direction are you going here this evening?
I'm going to go the two-game slate. I think if you do a small field, you have a little bit better chance of cashing. You don't have to necessarily get as crazy as, you have to do in showdown lineups where you got to get weird to do well. But, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm doing both because I'm a fucking degenerate. But the only complaint I have for the NFL is why are both these games at 8:15? Why couldn't one of them start at, like, say, 6? The other start at 9?
Stagger them,
Just split them up, yeah. Or either have one Saturday when literally all we got for football was Army-Navy. No offense to Army-Navy, but I didn't want to watch that, and I would much rather get one of these games on Saturday night.
Normally, in the beginning of the season, right, they did that. They had a doubleheader of Monday Night Football 2 weeks in a row. And the first game started at, I believe, like 7:30, 7:15. And then the second game was around, 8:30. So there was like an hour difference where you can watch. Joe, you're not first. My friend Mike Carr was first. So hit the road, Joe. Yeah, there it goes. Mike Carr was first, Joe. So you're second. How does that feel, Joe? But what I was getting at is that earlier in the season, they were like very good with staggering, the games. And obviously that was probably for, promotional services, for commercial breaks and stuff. And that was wonderful because by the time the first game like hit half, the second game was kicking off and there was always just, but now with both games being at 8:15, we're going to have to go back and forth. And I don't mind. And when we look at these games, we haven't even mentioned them. The Tennessee Titans go to Miami to play the Miami Dolphins. And this one is going to be, it could get out of hand, right? This one over-unders at 46 points. And then the other game is the Green Bay Packers at the New York Giants. And as a Detroit Lions guy, after the embarrassment of yesterday, I need the New York Giants to beat the Packers because the Packers right now, their schedule, the rest of the way is it's easy peasy. It's cake, right? And the Lions have, Denver on Saturday, who's just running hot. And then you got Dallas. But again, the Lions, all you have to do is you beat Chicago at home and then you're okay. And they couldn't even do that. But we're not here to talk about the Detroit Lions. We're here to talk about Tennessee and Miami. So we could throw names into a hat or throw something at the wall. But I would prefer, if it matters, if you want to talk about Tennessee at Miami first, if that's fine with you, Keith.
Yeah,
and I'll
screw the Packers. We'll let them go second.
Yeah, and I'll throw you a softball here. As I said, the Titans are going to Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. Kickoff promptly at 8:15 p.m. Right now, the over/under is at about 46 points, and you're getting Will Levis versus Tua. King Henry is there, and then you get the rookie a Chain, excuse me, Devon Chain is going to be there. So is Raheem Mostert, 31 years old. He's leading the league in rushing touchdowns. You love to see that. D Hop and Traylon Burks. Finally, he's back. And then, well, what are you going to do with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? I mean, these guys are going to be studs and stars. And I already sent out a tweet that, Tyreek is good for 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards. So when your first look at glance at this game, what are you thinking in terms of Tennessee and Miami from the actually? Let's let everything I just said. I know we're live, but we can edit that out. I know you said you wanted to play the whole 2-game slate. So if that's the way we're going to go, let's talk about some quarterbacks. We won't separate it game by game since you want to do the whole slate in general. So you only got 4 quarterbacks to pick from, Keith. So where's your head at here?
It's Tua. I want Tua and Tyreek. Like if I'm doing a 2-game slate, I got to put those 2 guys together. Tennessee is awful versus outside receivers. They're not, I mean, Tennessee is not the run defense they've been in the past, but they're still good. But they've been getting torched by outside receivers. I look at Alec Pierce a couple of weeks ago, who I know both me and you talked about in that week being a good deeper play because he was playing the Tennessee Titans. They're good versus slot receivers, really struggle against receivers on the outside. And when I think of terrified receivers on the outside, Tyreek Hill is literally one of the first names that comes to mind. So I want to get those 2 guys in my lineup. If it's a single game, I want to get as many Dolphins in my lineup as possible. Like I think right now I've toyed around with a lineup where I have Tyreek, Waddle, taking the Dolphins kicker defense, and then run it back with 2 Titans that I think can have some success.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful way to put it. And to play devil's advocate, given the slate here, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Jordan Love and what he's been able to do the last few weeks. And again, if you're any sort of interesting or you go on social media and you scroll and you go through it's eerily similar what Jordan Love has done his first 15 games starting as a Packer in comparison to what Aaron Rodgers has done. I mean, it's literally almost the exact same, yet Aaron Rodgers is a superstar and a stud, and again he won a Super Bowl there. But when you look at that, but way back when Aaron Rodgers, his first 15 games, no one gave a crap. They're like, he's a bum. But I think Jordan Love is starting to come into his own. And I know that stinks to say as an NFC guy, as a big NFC slappy here. But when you look at Jordan Love, they go to the Giants, who have 2 wins. They got nothing going on. Tommy DeVito has been very serviceable as a quarterback. He's been in bottom of the barrel anytime he's active because he's always so lowly priced, and he's repaid very, very beneficial when he's had in my lineups. But when I look at this overall slate, these 4 games, Jordan Love jumps off the page to me. He's only 7-7, on FanDuel. Another guy who I would like would be Tommy DeVito. And again, we don't have a lot to pick and choose from, right? And I know I'm going to have single game lineups of each game, and I'm going to have some that are just these 2 games. So it's kind of weird being we're not thrown to the wolves. We're like, let's go live and let's run it here. But I like Mike and I talk all the time on Twitter. We're always sharing ideas, in the DMs and everything. So I like Mike. I respect Mike. I look up to him. And thoughts on using both Miami running backs. If I'm not mistaken, I think I asked him that question about 2 hours ago on Twitter, and now he's I don't think I did, but it was fun. It's fun to say that I did. But both Miami running backs. Keith, take that one since you got the Miami, crest. You could see it hanging off the bottom of your picture there. What are your thoughts on both Mostert and the rookie here tonight against Tennessee, who's 10th overall against opposing running backs?
Yeah, I mean, again, in the 2-game slate, I wouldn't mind playing one of the Miami backs. Tennessee's run defense still scares me. I know that Simmons, I believe, is going to be out again, and obviously that makes a huge difference for this Titans defense. But I do think that they want Tyreek to break that record. I mean, he is only, I think now he's got to do just a little bit over 110 yards per game the rest of the way to be the first receiver ever to hit 2,000 yards. He could get 250 tonight easily against this defense. And I have a feeling they're going to put on a show. And again, I could be wrong. If you're asking me which running back I would rather have, I'd honestly rather have A-Chain because I think he's the better of the two in the passing game, which is, again, Tennessee's bigger bugaboo right now. And then he's just, I mean, both backs are explosive and they have the ability at any play to, go for a touchdown. But I just think A-Chain has more upside. I will say, though, you're talking like the Giants, or at least it seemed like you're saying the Giants have no chance tonight. I actually think the Giants might win the game tonight. And I'm not just saying that because I'm with somebody who's a Detroit Lions fan. They played some pretty good teams. Close at home.
Possible. Yeah, anything is
possible.
And
I think Barkley's going to be able to run on them, and that defense gets pressure. And that's been the one way this year that Jordan Love has not been great is when you've been able to pressure him. He's made some mistakes, which is, common for a quarterback his age. But, just kind of rounding out the QB conversation, would you go definitely Tua this week if you're looking at the 4, or would you try to be different because it's a small slate?
I would try to be different, right? And again, without Dave, your shout out to Dave. I mean, Dave is the the cash cow, the cash king. I've always been more from a GPP perspective. When you look at this slate, everybody and their mother is going to be on Tua, and that's all well and good. And I'm not saying Tua could wind up being, the best quarterback on the slate, but I'm just predisposed from a GPP perspective, and I can't not look at ownership percentages. So strictly from a Detroit Beastie kind of thing, I would prefer the likes of Jordan Love and even Tommy DeVito, just based on Green Bay, right? They're 8th overall against opposing quarterbacks, but they're not in Lambeau Field. And again, some of their secondary is banged up, right? This Owens kid's been a stud, as a cornerback safety kind of, hybrid guy. That one guy, he's married to what the heck is her name? Simone Biles. I don't know if he's going to be active tonight. He hurt his ankle pretty bad, or some sort of his leg last week, and he was taken off the field. So to me, the Green Bay secondary has some holes, right? And that maybe there's a chance here where Green Bay goes to New York and they've won a few games, right? They're just rolling off that thing. Yeah, right. And they go into New York and they're discounting the Giants. And you have, as you said, Saquon Barkley to just run it down your throats. And it could be a trap game the same way everybody was saying that the Lions, going to Chicago could have been a trap game. The same thing could be said here for Green Bay going to New York, because regardless of the Giants' record, the fans will still show up to that stadium. The fans still love the Giants, and they know they're a team kind of in purgatory, and they're just like, they're very close to going one of two ways, either down to the cellar or boom to the top. And I think that the Giants aren't far away from, hitting it and maybe competing for a division in the next few seasons. So to me, Green Bay going into New York is not a given, as you said. So to me, in order of importance, it would be Jordan Love, Tommy DeVito, and then Tua right there. And then Will Levis would be the ultimate kind of punt play. But I have a lineup where I have a stack of each team. That's only natural because there's, that's just what I like to do.
And again, you got to get weird when you're doing showdown lineups. He was just bringing up, Mike was, about the running backs. And again, I don't think the Miami backs have the best matchup. Miami's actually been a good run defense. So I don't know if Derrick Henry is necessarily a slam play either this week. Really, the two teams that have the best chance to run it and run it well are the Packers, who, again, Aaron Jones is out again. So, who are you going to go with? I actually do like messing around and playing Taylor, the young Packers back. He had 2 carries, 23 yards last week. If I look at A.J. Dillon and then see a guy come in and get 23 yards on 2 carries, I'd probably give him a few more carries the next week. And then, again,
Absolutely.
The Packers have been run on all season. And if you're the Giants, obviously your game plan is going to be, we're going to try to run it down your throat and keep that Green Bay offense, which has been very good even without Christian Watson playing this week, off the field. And I think that's where there's some real options in the 2-game slate. And also, if you're doing captain's lineup, is not just Barkley, but I think Breida will be involved as well. We know he's going to get touches. Chance he scores a touchdown. Who knows? And I really do like the backup Taylor because I can't trust A.J. Dillon. I unfortunately had him in some fantasy leagues the last 2 years. I'm not playing him. I'm not owning him. I'm not doing anything. I've seen the guy run for 2 yards in a cloud of dust for the last 3 years, and I'm over it. So give me any other back on the Packers other than A.J. Dillon.
Well, if it makes sense here, I have AJ Dillon. He's always been how can you put this? He was always looked upon as the heir apparent to Aaron Jones. When Aaron Jones is done and gone, right, it'll be AJ Dillon. And again, we've seen games where he's trucked people, but that hasn't been recently, right? And if it makes any difference, my personal projections for AJ Dillon tonight, 10 to 11 carries, looking around 40 to 45 yards. So you're looking at like what, 4.4, 4.5 yards a carry. I think that's pretty healthy, and a reception or two for another 12 yards. But the only difference is when I look at this game, when I'm looking at the final scores here, this one right here, Green Bay and the Giants, the over under is at around 37. And I have, the final score, I'll give away the final scores at the end of this thing. I have the final score equaling 38 total points. So I don't feel comfortable betting over or under when it's in a difference of a point right there. But I do think that AJ Dillon is able to find the end zone tonight. And that's the only difference, right? So, 10 or 11 carries for 45 or 50 yards isn't anything special. And he's not a PPR guy. Like I said, he's only had 20 receptions all season. But to me, in this game where Green Bay I just have a feeling like the Green Bay Packers, right, aside from their wide receivers, and when we get there, that'll be my time to shine here. I think that the Green Bay Packers are going to try and play that time of possession game. And then if they don't have the football, they're going to want to play field distance and things like that. So if it's a fourth and 2, 4th and 3, in the first half, let's just punt the ball, right? Let's pin them inside the 10 or 20 yard line. We know that their third string quarterback and their receivers are what they are, right? So we could have an advantage playing field position there. So to me, I think A.J. Dillon and even Patrick Taylor, as you were saying, could get some carries here just to play the old, time of possession kind of game, and we move on. When we look at the running backs over at the Tennessee-Miami game, we've kind of talked about that. I do like King Henry. There's just no way around him. I don't care if the opposing team was literally a brick wall. I would still go to bat for Derrick Henry. And if you hang with me for a second, I can tell you what I have in terms of Derrick Henry's projections tonight. 16 to 17 carries, 65 to 70 yards, looking at like a little bit over 4 yards a pop. He's averaged around 4.3 yards a pop. I have Henry to find the end zone. He's going to score a touchdown in 2 to 3 receptions. As of late, right, we've seen them using Derrick Henry kind of like in a screen game, but like zipping him out like a screen. And Will Levis has made some just some errant throws where you're like, holy smokes, like he'll throw across the field just for a screenplay, but it connects and it makes sense. And if Derrick Henry can get a hold of one on a screenplay, and you got a guy, like D-Hop or Westbrook Akeen, I don't think Burks has the size, but I think he's going to be a little bit timid to kind of put a hit on someone because he was been out with that nasty concussion for quite some time. So I don't think Burks is your guy that's going to get down the field and block for you. But if he does, then he's got balls of steel. But to me, if King Henry can get a screen and get past that first layer, that the linebackers, and if he gets into the safeties and cornerbacks here, King Henry could do some damage. 15 grand on FanDuel, 9-4 on DK. So give me King Henry to score a touchdown. When we look at the wide receivers here this evening, where are you going? Where's your mind at, Keith, when we talk about wide receivers?
Well, I mean, obviously, again, I'll go ahead and tell you, like in my showdown lineup for the Miami game, I got Tyreek Hill as the captain. I think he's going to have a huge night.
No brainer.
He's going to be same thing in my 2-game lineup. Like I'm just basically saying, yeah, I know everybody's going to own him, but I think he's going to be that good, and I don't care. Outside of that, like I love DeAndre Hopkins. He's had 31 targets the last 4 games. If you think like I do that Miami is going to be up and controlling this game, that is good for Tennessee receivers, because obviously that means Will Levis is going to have to throw more than they want him to, and that's going to be good for DeAndre Hopkins, who has a huge target share all season, and especially when Will Levis has been the QB. I love the value of the Green Bay guys. I know a lot of people will be looking at Romeo Dobbs. Totally get that. He could have a huge game, but Jaden Reed is the guy, again, that whether it's a showdown lineup or the 2-game slate, he's going to be in every single lineup. He has been getting involved more and more. We know Aaron Jones is out again, so he is somebody we've seen get rushing attempts on top of catching passes, so I think he'll get a few carries. Obviously, he's going to catch some passes. And then the same thing for Wicks, who is their rookie wide receiver. He's a very interesting play as well. He's a guy that kind of a big receiver who he doesn't get a ton of targets, but he has a lot of games with 2-3 catches for 40 to 60 yards. If he scores a touchdown, obviously that's good. And then from the Giants side, I'd look at Wan'Dale Robinson, who is just, again, DeVito, he is what he is. He's been better than I thought. But it's hard to believe that Jalen Hyatt will have another game like he did 2 weeks ago where he went for 100 yards. He could, but it's probably not likely. I know that when Wan'Dale Robinson plays, he's going to get at least 6-7 targets. He'll probably catch, at minimum 3-4 passes. And if I'm spending that little of money on a player, I want to make sure they're going to score something and they're not going to get a donut. So those are kind of the receivers that I'm looking at. I understand if you like Waddle, totally get that. But I'd rather spend up and have Hill.
Yeah, and that makes a ton of sense. And I'm looking, at other options as you're talking, and I'm actually trying to, get the video out and share it. Maybe I'm a little bit behind. We're 21 minutes into this thing, and I'm just now sharing it. But hey, it's all well and good. When I look at this game, right? I have the highlighters have been out, and on a per game basis. The only 2 wide receivers that I care about in the Tennessee-Miami game would be Tyreek and D-Hop. And if you can fit in Waddle, right, then you're going to go that route. And again, it's just about, it's 6:02. We got about, what time?
2 hours.
We got about 2 hours and 15 minutes before these games kick off. We're 22 minutes into the video. So there's going to be plenty of time for us to kind of, edit our lineups or build them as we see fit. But when we look at the wide receivers here, Tyreek and D-Hop are must-haves, right? And then even Jalen Waddle as well. So there could be a lineup where you're going to choose to do Tyreek, Waddle, and then Tua Tagovailoa, and then you can run it back with the Green Bay Packers running backs if you wanted to, right? So you would have King Henry in one spot, and then you could put A.J. Dillon in the other, and then Pat Taylor in the flex, and you're rolling. But there's of both of these games, I love the combo of not only Jalen Reed, but Romeo Dobbs, and also Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson. Those 4 wide receivers right there. And you will say, well, Chris, this game also over-unders at 37 points. And again, I have Miami to put up 35 points, and I have, Green Bay to score 20 plus points. I have the Giants to score around 17 to 20 points here. But there's something about Reed and Romeo and then Hyatt and Wan'Dale that I want in the same roster, right? And that's just my first initial reaction. Then if you wanted to, you could split that up and you could take Reed and Romeo, and then you could pop them in with Tyreek and D-Hop, right? And then you could do the opposite, D-Hop and Tyreek with both Giants wide receivers, Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson. Sterling Shepard is going to be active. So is Slayton. I don't really care about that. And there's this one kid, Malik Heath, is going to be active for the Packers tonight as well. And he's 6'5" on FanDuel. DraftKings, he's $800. And these are single game slate prices because that's the way I wrote it down here. But get this, though. The Giants, they're 30th overall against opposing wide receivers. That's why I love Jordan Love, because we've seen him in the way that they've using this rookie out of Michigan State, Reed. They're using him all over the field. They're taking a page out of the Deebo Samuel playbook where he is their slot guy, but they're throwing it to him at the line of scrimmage or just behind the line of scrimmage, and then letting him weave his way through and letting him do his thing. And I think one of those plays tonight will be a touchdown for Jalen Reed. Romeo is kind of your PPR guy, right? You can trust him. You can give him 7-8 targets. He'll catch 6 or 7 of those.
To your point, though, Reed, four more catches, and I think it's 5 out of the last 6, 3 more in like 8 straight. So, I mean, he is going to get the ball. You're right.
He's been fantastic, and everybody's always talking about Tyreek and D Hop and Reed, but the combo, the killer combo, I think would be Tyreek and Reed. That would be my 1-2 punch that I would want the most in terms of wide receivers. And when you look down the list, you could even do Waddle, Reed, and Romeo. That could be your trio there. And then in the flex spot, if you got any money left, you could go from there. Tyreek, I believe, is like $10,000 something dollars. It's insane.
He's 9,200. So on DraftKings, I should say.
He's 10-2 on he's $10,200 on FanDuel for the Monday only. So you get 2 games. That's like Christian McCaffrey kind of stuff. Like that prohibits what you can do, right? And so Tyreek is 10-2. Jalen Waddle is right behind him at 7-1, and Hopkins is 7-2, and we go down from there. So making a commitment to Tyreek Hill is a big it's a big call to make. But again, I tweeted out hours ago. I think I did the math. I forget how I did it, but I think I said Tyreek Hill is going to catch 7 or 8 passes for 143 yards, and he's going to score twice. So again, if he's going to score 2 touchdowns and go to 140 yards, 10-2 is a small price to pay for all those points here. So in terms of the wide receivers, I think I said what I needed to say. I just love the idea of Reed and Romeo in the same lineup, and then maybe Jalen Hyatt. See, so if I were to go Jaden Reed and Romeo, and then Hyatt and Wandell in the same roster, that's kind of locking me into this game, and that's not what I want to do, because I see more of the action being on the first one. So I think the best bet would to be taking those combos, Reed and Romeo, and then putting it down with a wide receiver or 2 from the Miami game, and then therefore same thing with the New York Giants wide receivers. You take those 2, and then you pair them with a Tennessee guy or a Miami Dolphin guy. You don't want to get too wrapped up into one game, but I could, if there was a game to be wrapped up in, it would be the Tennessee Miami game, and it would be all Miami Dolphins. When we look at the tight ends here, we're coming up on around 27 minutes. It's probably be nice to keep this thing at about 35 to 40 minutes. When it comes to tight ends here, Keith, I got 4 guys written down, and that's about it. And one of them is Daniel Bellinger for the Giants, and he's questionable to play because the tight end spot tonight is really nothing. Not much is going on at tight end aside from that rookie Tucker Kraft in Green Bay. But where are you going when it comes to tight ends tonight?
I mean, if it's a 2-game slate, I really like Okonkwo. If you look, he was somebody I was all over last year and really have been disappointed kind of in his, what he's been this year, because he was really good down the stretch. Last year, he helped me actually win a few fantasy leagues because, he was really productive for the tight ends, which, it's just a wasteland position. His volume is starting to come back up. Like he's had the last 6 games, 6, 4, 6, 2, 5, 6 targets. So he's starting to see the ball consistently. So it's no surprise in those 6 games, he's seen 3 or more targets in 5 of them. He's had, 3 or more receptions in 5 of them, 4 more receptions in half of them. And then the last 2 weeks, he's had 107 yards receiving. It's not the greatest matchup in the world versus the Dolphins. They're like on DraftKings, I think they're 17th versus tight ends, but it's also not a dreadful one. I expect the Titans to be down. And obviously if I was a defense coordinator, which I'm not, I would try to take away DeAndre Hopkins once I know the Titans are passing, because that's basically their top receiver, probably making it a little bit easier for Okonkwo to catch some passes. And I just can't see a world where Tennessee in Miami slows down this Miami offense, because Miami has been unbelievable in home games this year, and the points they put up and their just everything. So I really like Okonkwo. I hate about Bellinger because he is a guy like for the single game slate I was planning on using in that Giants-Packers game. So I hope he's a go. And obviously if he plays, he doesn't end up being limited or get knocked out or something. And I know some people have talked about Kraft, which I get it because he's been involved obviously with Musgrave out, but the Giants have been really good versus tight ends this year. So really the only 2 I'm looking at are Bellinger and Okonkwo. And obviously if Bellinger doesn't play, I'm not going to use him.
Yeah, let me talk about Durham Smythe for a second, right?
Yeah.
Getting chiggy with it. Durham Smythe, right? Tennessee, and this is awful, right? But again, anything is doable on a single game slate, right?
That's weird. Yeah.
Exactly. When I do the single game slate videos, I try and turn over every stone I had. And at a certain point, there was a time in my career where these videos were like 30 minutes long and nobody was going to hanging out. So I had to make the executive decision recently to keep it at 10 or 12 minutes because people's attention spans are like a fly. They're like, and they're gone. I mean, sooner or later, not kidding, right? I'm going to be 40 in April, right? So this younger group of people that are coming up, all the kids in high school, even the young kids in college who are 19, 18 and 19, they don't give a shit about anything. Their phone is connected to their excuse me, I almost said the F word, their face, and all they know is TikTok, which is like 10 seconds and 5 seconds. And sooner or later, what we're doing is going to be obsolete in a way. We're going to have to get in and get out in like 2 minutes, which wouldn't even, why even bother? Because it took me 5 minutes to make the overlays and the graphics and all that stuff. So why bother? So everything is going to be moved to like TikTok or something in the future. And then
I'm just gonna let AI pick my lineups, in the next year or two.
That'll be the time when I just retire and walk away, because I don't know if it'll be worth it, right, to go on air for 2 minutes and just go from there. But when we look at tight ends, Durham Smythe, again, Tennessee's first overall against tight ends, but that's on paper. Once this game gets going and Miami opens it up, you could see it. You could make a case where Miami gets up 21-0, right? By the time midway through the second quarter, it could be 21-0, right? And then there goes the DVP, goes out the window. And I could make a case that Durham Smythe finds the end zone, or Durham Smythe catches 3 passes for 40 yards, and that's all you need given his price tag. So again, if we're going to look to fit in, Tyreek Hill and Waddle and D-Hop and King Henry, and then sprinkle in a cheap guy like Pat Taylor at running back for the Packers, we're going to have to look cheap at tight ends, right? And Tucker Kraft, he's kind of a little bit more expensive than I'd like him to be, but ever since Dave mentioned him on Thanksgiving and the kid scored a touchdown on Thanksgiving, he's kind of risen the ranks, and
Thanks, Dave.
He is their tight end 1 right now because the process of elimination. And Tucker Kraft is going to see 4 or 5 targets in this one. And Daniel Bellinger, I could make a case for him too. Daniel Bellinger reminds me of that guy in Cincinnati, Hudson, right? And if Daniel Bellinger is active and healthy here tonight, he probably won't be healthy, but he'll be active. He can be, like a safety blanket for Tommy DeVito. That's always been the case. A rookie tight end, their best friend is a reliable tight end. And right now,
playing
Daniel
close
Bellinger,
to 90% of the snaps since Waller's been out. So he's always on the field too.
And I know Lucas Cage, I think his name is Lucas Cager. He's been in and out of the lineup, and I picked him up last season, and he's built more like a Kyle Pitts, right? Kyle Pitts could be a wide receiver, but they put him at tight end just because of his height and his arm muscles here. But Daniel Bellinger is in play for me too. So, you say, Tucker Kraft and all the stud, there are no stud tight ends on the slate, but Chig is going to be highly owned, rightfully so. And so is Tucker Kraft, but no one's going to care about Bellinger and Durham Smythe. So that's the way, just to play devil's advocate, that's the way, I'm going to go here tonight. And again, I said Durham Smythe could catch 3 passes. One of them could be a touchdown. I'm not projecting a touchdown for Bellinger, but I'd be cool with 2 or 3 receptions for 30 yards. And I'd be great. Now, 33-minute mark. This is the what are we going to call this? This is the Fantasy 6-Pack Monday Night Football special show.
2-game slate.
To the 2-game slate. Yeah. And before we'll talk about DSTs and kickers briefly, make sure you get to the website. When you get there at fantasy6pack.net, tell them Beastie sent you, tell them Keith sent you. And right now there's a beautiful promotion. You use FF Playoffs. You get 25% off whatever premium package you want. And this is where you're going to want to be. If you're in your seasonal playoff still, then you're going to want to be here, because this website just stays in the top 5, top 10 in terms of rankings. So let Fantasy 6-Pack be your guiding light to get you to the championship with their outstanding rankings. If you're out of the playoffs, oh, boo-hoo, you got Keith and I and Dave to help you with DFS and betting and all that stuff. And all you got to do is get to the website. And I know, if I'm not mistaken, the cheapest premium price is $9.99. And that gets you all access to the Discord where we are all day. You can tag us. It's like a genie. You just mention our name and poof, we pop up in the Discord to help you out. But when we look at this thing, all you got to do is FF playoffs. You'll get 25% off, and we hope to see you all there. So Keith, I'll toss it back to you. Anything sticking out from a DST perspective? Because in the single game lineups, we don't have to use a defense, but if we're playing that two gamer, we got to use it. You got to use a defense. Where are you going and why?
I mean, obviously, probably the one that is most likely to do well is Miami, because, I mean, I guess you could say DeVito is worse, but I just think with Barkley and the Giants being at home, I don't see them laying an egg. Again, I actually think the Giants are going to win tonight. I swear I'm not high at this moment, but the other defense I do like is those New York Giants. I mean, if you look, again, in home games, this is where they're at. Against New England, 7 points allowed. Against the Jets, 13 points allowed. Against Washington, that's a good offense. 7 points allowed. Against Seattle, 18 points allowed. I mean, you have to go all the way back to week 1 since they've allowed more than 18 points in a home game. They're a team that consistently causes turnovers. They've had at least 2+ turnovers in 3 straight. And they have, plenty of games where they get 4, 5, 6 sacks, which you can get at Green Bay. Like, that has been something that you've been able to do this season. That's honestly the easiest way to kind of rattle, Jordan Love and make him get a little bit off his game. The Giants defense on DraftKings for their last 5 games has scored 12 or more points. So I do kind of like the Giants, and they're cheap. Like, they're $2,800 on DK. I'm not exactly sure what their price is on FanDuel. And I kind of do. If you're like me and you believe the Giants have a chance to win this game, I think you have to have their defense in the showdown lineup, because they're going to be a big reason why.
Yeah, on FanDuel, the Giants are $3,500. There's 4 teams, and the Green Bay Packers are the most. They're $4,100. Miami, and the Green Bay Packers DST has a higher projection than the Dolphins, and the Dolphins are 4.7 on FanDuel, and they're projected around 8.5, and the Packers are projected at 9.5 to 10. The Giants are third at $3,500, and then the Tennessee Titans at Miami are only $3,100. So again, we start building lineups, right? And you got, $3,100 left. I would put the Titans in. Is it my first choice? No, but if everything else in my line looks good, and I have to put Tennessee in to just complete the line so I can enter it, I would do that in a heartbeat, because Dave talks about this all the time, and that's why we're so agreeable, right? It doesn't matter about points scored. Miami could win 100 to 10, right? But those 10 points, if those 10 points came from turnovers, then your defense, you've made your money back just based on their price tag. But I'm with you. The New York Giants, it would be my first plan of attack here against Green Bay, and I've given you their price tag, and I could see a case here where, what are the chances Green Bay's on the road on Monday, and I don't want to say they're tired, but Jordan Love turns back into a pumpkin, right?
They went out in New York City on, over the weekend, had a little too much fun. Yeah.
Yeah. But realistically, like, Green Bay's right on a pink cloud right now. They're on cloud 9. They're like, the Lions lost and whatever. Like, if we run the table here, we can win. And they're just completely discounting the Giants at home. They could get smacked around here. And what are the chances Jordan Love turns back into a pumpkin for the night, and the Giants get a couple sacks, they get an interception, they get a fumble recovery, and God willing, one of those turnovers happens to turn into 6 points for the Giants defense, and boom, one of the lowliest ranked or price tag defenses scores a touchdown, and you got him in your lineup. Now we're talking. So my mind can go a million different ways with any different player or defense, because that's what I do in my head. I have, I daydream and I romanticize about all this stuff. And it would be the Giants or the Packers, because when you look at the Titans, they're in for it. Again, I have Miami scoring 35 to 38 points in comparison to not 35 or 38 points for Tennessee. So to be fair, if I build a line, as I said, that I love with Tyreek and D-Hop and King Henry, and the 2 Green Bay Packer boys that wide receiver, if my only option to then be able to enter that lineup is with Tennessee at DST, I would do it in a heartbeat and not think twice. When we get to kickers, anything you want to say when we get to kickers here? I mean, in the single game slates, they have been known to win people some money.
No, I know.
But in a, when we're playing both sides of it, we have to play a kicker. So give me your favorite kicker on the slate.
I mean, again, this is the main reason that I do DraftKings is the kickers drive me freaking crazy. But I know they do the same thing for Showdown on DraftKings as well. But if you had to give me a kicker, I would probably take either the Titans or the Giants because they're the most likely, or they're the two worst offenses out of the two. So it's more likely they're not going to finish drives and kick field goals. And I mean, that's really the way I look at it. If I end up going with the kicker in these, these situations, these showdown lineups, is I'm literally just looking for an offense that I think they don't score touchdowns on a regular basis, and they're going to have to settle for field goals.
Yeah, I like my favorite kicker on today's slate is Jason Sanders, the Miami Dolphins kicker, and that's
he's taking the 3 points and knowing they're going to score.
That's pretty clear. The Tennessee Titans are 28th in terms of giving up points to opposing kickers, and again, he'll be in there for 5 or 6 extra points, probably a couple field goals. But my second favorite could be my first, to be honest with you, is this Anders Carlson kid. He kicks for the Green Bay Packers right now. They're in New York right now. The weather is probably cold. I don't think it's snowing or rainy or anything like that, but Anders Carlson playing the Giants against Green Bay. Again, if this Green Bay Packers team, if we're going to go along the line here that the Green Bay Packers kind of stall out and Love turns back into a pumpkin, I could see that Anders Carlson is available for 40, 50 yard, a couple 40 or 50 yard field goal attempts. And he's been pretty good so far this season. And he's not the cheapest, but it's pretty cool when you look at what we got going on here. So Keith, before we split, any last words here for tonight?
Yeah, just real quickly, I did do a cash game lineup I want to share for the 2-game slate on DK. I said I like Tua and Tyreek, so they're both in there. The backs, I actually went Barkley and Taylor. I had to spin down at a position, so I took a Green Bay running back. Why not? The other receivers are Jalen Reed and Wan'Dale Robinson. I talked about Okonkwo, the Miami Dolphin defense, and that allowed me to also get A-Chain, who I'm just hoping has, one of those A-Chain games that goes absolutely bananas. But I feel like you have to have Tua, Tyreek, Reed, and Barkley in any 2-game slate lineup, and then from there you can get as creative as you want.
Yeah, and that is beautiful. And I have a sample line I can give here too. And I will also, at the end of this broadcast, I do have my regular single game notes for each game, and I'll be sure to share those here around 7 o'clock. But what I have built on FanDuel, and again, this was I built this line while we were broadcasting, while you were talking. I was
talk about multitasking.
So this is basically, this could be referred to as a dummy lineup, right? The first lineup you build, and I've told everybody how I do this. Monday I build a lineup and I leave it be, and then I build from there. So normally I'm not a tinkerer. I used to be a tinkerer, and that's the death of any DFS lineup, to be
Amen to that.
So it starts with, so anybody wants to grab a pen and a piece of paper, Mike, I know you're out there. Jordan Love is my quarterback. I'm going to go with Raheem Mostert as my running back. Taj Spears, the second, the guy right behind Derrick Henry, just for some salary relief. And I got $200 left. I could actually, go down from Taj Spears and put in Pat Taylor if I wanted to have that. But I like Spears as it stands right now. Just
more likely to see more touches. I get that. For sure.
Yeah. And when we get to the running backs, or wide receivers, I have a Reed and Tyreek Hill. I have the young kid Hyatt, the rookie for the Giants, and I have Chig as my tight end. And flex, I have King Henry, and my defense is the Green Bay Packers, and I have $200 left over in that lineup. So before we split, thanks everybody for being here. This was an impromptu thing. It saved a lot of time and effort, on our part, putting together single game slates and editing videos and making graphics. So thanks to Fantasy Six Pack for giving us 44 minutes of their airtime and letting us do this. And I appreciate everybody for being here and following all of our content. You won a couple $1,000 yesterday. That was phenomenal. Yeah. The money you won, you shared everything you were doing throughout the week anyway, so it shouldn't be a shock that you won a couple $1,000. So that is a wonderful thing for you, my friend. Everybody that reads Bottom of the Barrel and watches the videos, thank you to all of you. And don't forget to use FF Playoffs. You get some money off. You get to be part of the team here as we get into the nitty gritty of the season. And be good and be safe. And Bottom of the Barrel quarterbacks edition for week 15 already will be out sometime tomorrow. So be good, be safe, and let's enjoy football. Are you ready for some football? We'll talk to you later.